Hi, this is Bradders from Dreamcatcher Radio. I've come across this video from a gentleman called Anthony Carroll where he talks about Audrey Dempsey. Let's just unpack this.
Sharia law, for instance, they're trying to bring that here. That's not something we celebrate.
Who's bringing that here?
The asylum seekers, some of the asylum seekers, the legal migrants.
So this is Reform Councillor Audrey Dempsey. Just hitting out with shite now, like making up stuff that she posts that she finds from Facebook copy share stuff that is just not true. Sorry that I'm saying it like it is, but it's utter bollocks.
I think Audrey made a mistake here in her on-foot interview by saying migrants, or boat people, if you want to call them that, are bringing Sharia law in the UK. The fact is, it already operates here in the UK, and it has been for 2 decades. There's more and more pseudo Sharia courts, cloak and dagger, which are operating in the UK. Cannot be denied. Police know it. Everybody knows it.
I think everyone knows it as well. The police have came out and said this isn't happening.
So I'm going to just play a very quick clip from a news outlet talking about Sharia courts in the UK. And you're saying it's not happening.
And we now shift our focus to the UK. Is it becoming the Western capital for Sharia courts? According to a report by The Times, the Sharia courts, which have grown to 85 in number since 1982, now hold significant sway over the lives of thousands of people across the UK. In fact, an app endorsed by a Sharia court reportedly allows Muslim men in the UK to select the number of wives they have from a drop-down menu from 1 to up to 4. The same app also allows for the creation of Islamic wills, where daughters inherit only half the share of sons, reportedly. Around 100,000 Islamic marriages believed to have been conducted in the UK, reportedly, many without any official registration with the civil authorities. These courts, comprised almost entirely of male Islamic scholars, are often the sole authority in granting divorce. If a woman is seeking to end her marriage but her husband refuses to grant it, she can turn to one of these courts for assistance. As per experts, the decisions by Sharia court often directly contradicting the rights guaranteed by British law. Take the case of preacher Haitham Al-Haddad, for example, one of the more prominent figures in the UK's Sharia court system. In the year 2009, he was recorded stating that a man should not be questioned about hitting his wife because such matters are between the couple. In fact, there are some people in the UK who are fighting against religious courts. Baroness Cox, a former academic and a crossbench member of the House of Lords, has reportedly long advocated for legislation to protect women from discrimination under Sharia law. However, past efforts to regulate these councils have reportedly been met with resistance from the government. Former UK Prime Minister Theresa May, as Home Secretary, commissioned a review into Sharia courts, but ultimately the Conservative government refused to regulate them, citing concerns about presenting them as an alternative to British law. The UK government reportedly insists that Sharia law does not form any part of British law, but at the same time, has it already become the Western capital for Sharia courts?
So it cannot be denied Sharia courts operate in the UK, and under a ruse, basically, has no legal standing here in the UK. And even local authorities, there's 2 that I'm aware of, have posted job adverts for Sharia law advisors, and you deny they exist.
The feeling locally as well. I'm Springburn born and bred, as you can see, as it were. And the amount of folk that have came out the woodwork about this, that aren't interested in politics, just get by. They might post the odd thing here and there, but they never really have been into politics that much. who have came out of the woodwork that I've seen on Facebook and all this from all the folk I grew up with. I'm surprised how many are coming out saying how embarrassed that they are for having someone representing them hitting out with stuff like this.
I can't believe what's coming out of your mouth, if I'm honest. You suffer from distortions. There's absolutely no way you could go around your community, albeit you seem to have a virtual community where you mention things like Facebook and they're coming out of the woodwork. We speak to many people all the time on the radio station, and no one's happy. Poverty is through the roof, and you're saying, "Oh, it's all rosy out there," and it's people like Audrey Dempsey are trying to build barriers between the community. No, people are scared. People are scared. You are living in a different planet. You really are. You really are. And to go and attack someone like Audrey, who's done far more for her community than probably you've done in your lifetime, probably even today, what she's probably done. You are a weirdo, complete weirdo. I don't know how people elected people like you, but such is life.
Making things up like this to stir the pot, to try and curry favour for more folk to distrust their neighbours, because that's all this is. This is just to make you feel that if you have someone who's became a refugee, or even someone who's living in, say asylum accommodation nearby, someone whispering in your ear, an elected politician whispering around the community saying, they might be trying to bring in Sharia law, by the way.
Do you really think that Audrey is going around whispering in people's ears? You, my friend, are probably sitting up, tucked up in bed, while Audrey's there working at her charity, which no one can deny, or on phone calls to her constituents to do good service for her community. You are deluded, absolutely deluded. Have you actually spent a day doing a day's work at Audrey's charity? Have you done it? I doubt it. No mention of it. But she's busy whispering in people's ears. Jeez, people like you.
That's what it's only doing. It is stirring the pot. It is causing division. It's got scuttle to improve anyone's situation in our communities, which is actually to make sure we're having a better system of life together. Because that's not what the Home Office is about either. And unfortunately, they're following the tunes of people like Audrey Dempsey.
Do you even know what the government policy is on immigration and also illegal immigration? Now, one thing that I kind of think about here, young man, is that when did we ever get such a big foot on the ladder that illegal people, unknown people, unvetted people get what they're getting now? How did that come about? Now, one thing we do know, it long term in the planning. We know the government genuinely don't want to stop the boats. We don't know why, but they don't. And what, from my perspective, I'm not speaking for Audrey here. From my perspective, is that I don't feel safe. I genuinely don't feel safe. You may feel safe. How many illegal migrants have you got in your house? How many did you put up? I pretty much, I would have none. But that's not the issue. The issue is here that you're creating a narrative against Audrey Dempsey, which, in all honesty, is moot and holds no validation whatsoever. It doesn't. It makes zero sense. It makes zero sense, and it just shows your immaturity, in my opinion, because you can easily go into your Facebook that you proclaim your friends have come out the woodwork and find a torrent of stories of people with a grievance. So easy. It's far easier to find people with grievance than it is to find people that are very, very happy with the current situation that's going on in the UK. Just do it.
And it's really dividing our communities. They're coming hitting out saying, "Oh, it's discussing the amount of illegal immigration."
Of course, illegal immigration is important, is a massive issue. But also like crime is a huge issue. Is a huge issue. You look at GB News, for example, the amount they're doing reporting wise, and Patrick Christie's that's been in France, who's been in the UK, he's actually been around the country as well. And you look at all the injustice in regards to that. You've got citizen journalists being arrested. These citizen journalists didn't operate, say, 10 years ago. You could say, well, that's down to the development of social media. But even so, they're recording stuff. I mean, someone got sent to prison recently for, I think, just over 2 years for punching a police officer's protection screen and throwing a can. Yet a migrant, if I'm just using an example because it's on, top of my head, got a suspended sentence. People not being deported, even though they're criminals, known criminals. People that come into the country, no one really knows who they are. And citizens are being used as collateral damage. And where I live, for example, right, I live in a very multicultural road, and it's awesome. It's so quiet, so peaceful. But a lot of these communities that are victims, right, they're not used to this. They're not used to this. And would you invite these random people in your communities? And also, I mean, look, I just looked the other day, another one where there was a riot in a hotel where they smashed the place up. Just Google it. I don't know what the hotel was called, but just Google it. I'm sure it'll come up. Um, and you're going at Audrey saying she's one of them, whoever them are, far right, I imagine. What you will say is a racist as well, I imagine you'll say. But then I'm called a racist as well, or far right. I've never been called it, but when I look at the definition of it, of what people are saying, I think, that means I'm a racist. Yeah, I've never been called a racist in my life, but suddenly I'm a racist for asking questions.
Taking place, They're no bothering of making an actual asylum system that supports folk to, be members of a community afterwards. They just go, right, we're going to keep them segregated away from folk in separate accommodation, and they're going to be no having the right to work. So when
The keeping separated. These people are living in hotels. They're getting clothes, they're getting driving lessons, they're getting teaching skills. I mean, how can you not correlate to that? I mean, there's homeless people, there's homeless veterans, and if you listen to my radio station, we do a weekly broadcast on veterans. And can you not understand how people will be upset at that? How many food banks? I mean, I guess you wouldn't even know the number, but we talk about it quite a lot on the radio station. But how many food banks are out there? And people who come here illegally get money, they get accommodation, they get food. There's many people out there, and you question why they would perhaps be aggrieved. You may be very comfortable in your home, but many people in the UK are not comfortable. The poverty is beyond belief, and it's getting worse. And they can go and be in a hotel or get accommodated for, get furniture, new mattresses, all this sort of stuff that most people can't afford, or if they can afford, it's a capital purchase nowadays. The new housing, all this sort of stuff. There's so much evidence of it out there. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. And they're given priority need. They are. How does that happen? How does that happen? You are so naive. You're so naive.
They actually suddenly get maybe the leave to remain. They've not got a job. They can't afford to go and get a flat. They can't do anything, so they just apply to go homeless because that's what the Home Office has set them out to do.
And you can't afford to get a flat. That's our fault, right? The How many people can afford to get a flat? The government are outbidding its own citizens on property ladder because they're giving contracts to companies like Cllr and are like, which can outbid its own citizens. And these people are getting on the property ladder far quicker, even if it's rental. I mean, it's rental prices are absurd, and you're saying, oh well, because the we're not helping them to build themselves up and all this sort of stuff. Where does the help come from? My daughters, for example, they would never at you know, and in fact, one of them actually works for the government. The Never be able to afford to buy a property, even with parent help, because I couldn't afford a deposit. The and then these people are getting free. They're getting free, and that's what I don't get. And I've got nothing against positive migration. I was having a discussion with someone recently. My partner is from Czech Republic, and she's been a model citizen all her life since being here since the age of 17. I've got friends who are positive migrants, Albanian, that you go to a restaurant, you know, you struggle to be served by a British person. You go to the hospital, I was doing some blood tests the other day, and nobody was British. You're missing the point of this issue. The issue is that something, I believe, is somewhat sinister is going on, and I think it's by design, but I don't know what. I genuinely don't know what.
Set them out to fail from the offset. And to have folk play the tunes of folk like this, where's this going to end? It's not going to end in communities actually feeling more trusting of each other. It's going to make this worse. It's dangerous, this rhetoric.
See, I actually believe that people are very, very scared to speak up. Very scared. You almost need to get legal advice before you say anything nowadays, out of fear of being able to speak. The problem is this is the way I see it anyway, is that you're not allowed to call a spade a spade. And that's the issue. What you're talking about, in all honesty, I think you're living cuckoo land. And you're probably the kind of person that will deny grooming gangs and stuff like this, which the government denied. The London mayor couldn't even understand what grooming gangs meant. I mean, when you're dealing with stuff like that, when that sort of thing is thrown in your face, and you think, "Oh my days, oh my days." I, I'd love for the police to come out more whistleblowing, but they won't. The pensions are good. But they won't. They won't tell you. They won't. They won't tell you what's actually going on in our communities and societies and how messed up it is. I know because I spoke to police officers off the record, but not one will ever, ever come out and speak, even as a whistleblower. But what they witness, what they see, crimes that get reported that don't get dealt with, and the description they have to give in relation to individuals and stuff like that. I mean, we've had that for years anyway. But the realistic thing is, we had structural problems in the UK anyway, but our structural problems have got a lot worse, a lot worse. We've got economic problems. We're sending money left, right, and centre to other countries just to show the powerhouse that we apparently are, where we actually should focus on home, which I truly believe should be what we ought to be doing. I think if you asked any taxpayer, would you like the money to be spent here or there? Where do you reckon they want the money spent? Just ask the obvious question.
I'm ashamed to have, folk in our city hit out with this. And even Thomas Kerr, who is the reform leader in Glasgow in that way, he knows that this should be a red line as well. It was for UKIP. They hit out with this, with Anne-Marie Waters, UKIP person who tried to become their leader, she just kept talking about Sharia law, and they were like, a bit too far even for us. This is the level of danger that stuff like this brings, spreading unfounded rumours around our communities. It needs to get nipped in the bud.
See, I don't know why you did this video anyway. But Sharia law is just an element of issues that we've got in this country. It's an element. Look at all the other stuff that Audrey talks about, and then you pick on a short clip about her talking about Sharia law. Sharia law is an issue. I mean, how can you deny it? That's an issue. It's not legal in the UK. And are you saying it doesn't happen? These court hearings or whatever you want to call it, these mock-up courts, and that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's so much that's done, and the skullduggery that's involved as well between new politicians, and it just, it just doesn't sit well with me. Doesn't sit well with me. And you're trying to attract a specific audience. I don't know who the audience is by posting this video.
I hope the reform leader, Thomas Kerr, calls us out as well. I know it's odd to ask about that, but it's surely too far a fringe even for them. So even if he doesn't, we need to keep calling it out as well. And I know that folk across communities, especially in Ballymock and Springburn, like I was saying, I'm seeing a big amount of folk doing that more now than ever, because I'm scunnered and sick to the back teeth of folk like that representing them. And I'll keep calling it out in places like the City Chambers, like I did this afternoon. That does scud all to bring and build pride in our communities with everyone who can make them if we build a system that actually supports folk given leave and those seeking asylum. That's how we build pride, Cllr Dempsey. It's by the UK government actually making a system that supports, not segregates, asylum seekers away from communities and employment so that they are able to be fully involved members of their new communities, just like everyone else. That builds...
I'm going to end on this. I'm very disappointed in your comments, and you're reading from a script that you prepared. And, I would, if I were you, and obviously this is going to be shared now on social media, and I would have a second look at what you're saying. And you're towing the company line for somebody, because what you're saying makes no sense. It makes no sense. There's massive structural issues here in the UK already, and then we're packing more on, and then everybody's left to scratch their heads. You look at, for example, the next budget that's coming out, how scary that's going to look. You look at all the billions of pounds being spent, where that money could have been spent here. There is so much disaster going on in the world. So much going on in the world, like massive amounts of issues in the world. And it saddens me. But unfortunately, I think, my belief is is that we really, really, really need to get our own house in order before we start giving opinions and discourse elsewhere. And yeah, that's my view on that video that you did to ambush Audrey. And by the looks of it, you're quite proud of it. Like I say, go and do a day with her at a charity. Do the decent thing.